Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Today we're going to take a look at the Arkansas Derby. It's a full field and interested to see how Red Route 1 is going to do in this one amongst others. So let's take a look at the field and see what we got. The Arkansas Derby is a Grade 1 Derby prep run at 1 1/8 at Oaklawn Park. And if we look at the configuration here, you see they got plenty of stretch to start from. So most of the runners are going to be able to get into position, albeit with if there's no traffic, they shouldn't have a problem. So no built-in impediments for this one. Number 1 is Bourbon Bash. He's trained by Dwayne Lucas. We've seen him in the Rebel and at various points along the Derby Trail at 2 and 3 years old. And he kind of has the MO of he will hang around in the race. He'll make a move at about the top of the stretch, and then he'll wilt at the end. And I think it sort of just speaks to the fact that he's just a cut below the more prominent 3-year-olds. You can see in the Rebel, that's kind of what he did. He started to make a move on the outside. He came wide, and then he just kind of tired and didn't factor, and he ended up 5th. I don't think it's likely that he would be a factor in this race. His early run, he's going to be up near the pace, and that might be pretty good because there isn't a lot of early pace in this one. So if you do like him, I mean, you can put him on the bottom of the exotics, but I find it hard to fathom that he would be a factor in this race. Interlock Empire is another Kenny McPeek, and he's doing what Kenny McPeeks do at maidens. They just get a little better every single start, and you can see. This one, the buyers have improved with each race. The last race, though, he kind of pulled a Red Route 1. I mean, he was way the hell back. He was dead last, and he came from the clouds, circled the field, made a big, huge move, and drew off. And it was pretty impressive, to be sure, but visually, that is. I mean, but then you look, and he got a 78 buyer, and it was a 138 mile, so it wasn't terribly fast. Can he make another step forward in this race? Well, it would be possible, but here's the problem. Kenny McPeek is terrible with horses who are coming off Lasix. He's 0 for 17 with 3-year-olds in this particular scenario. So, and we saw in the Louisiana Derby last week how it impacted Dennington. He was nowhere to be found in that race. And I kind of think you may have the same situation here. Could he still get in the bottom of the try of the Super because of that late running style? Sure, he can clunk up. I want a big price if I'm going to use him, though. Other than that, I don't think he's really a factor in this race. Harlow Cap we saw in the Risen Star, and we were all talking about, maybe he can wire the field, and boy, were we wrong. You look and you can see the progression he did have late in his 2-year-old year, beginning his 3-year-old year, just kind of dissipated, and he really didn't do much running after he was met in the eye, and he just didn't show a lot of heart, and I just don't think he has the talent to stay. Now, he could very well be the pace setter in this race, and if he is, I think we'll probably get the same result. There is some other speed. We're just not sure whether or not they're going to go to the front as prominently as perhaps they have in the past. So this one, I just don't think he's fast enough. He would have to wire the field, and I don't think that's going to happen. So Harlow Cap is a toss for me. Two Eagles River has seen, it seems like he's seen every 3-year-old. You look at his running lines. He's run against Disarm, Gun Pilot, Verifying, Frosted Departure, Bourbon Bash, Victory Formation, Lugan Knight. He's had some good competition, and he's fared pretty well. You can see he's never finished out of the money in all his starts. The last one, he was particularly sharp on the front end, and he held off Disarm, who was coming late. Asmussen did say, though, Disarm probably needed a race, and I don't disagree with that. So maybe it was not quite as impressive as perhaps we thought. But the fact is he drew off from the front end, and he could very well be the lone pace in this race. It just depends what they want to do with him. Chris Hartman is a great trainer, and he's been killing it at Oaklawn this meet, but he is not good at graded stakes. And this one is, I think he's just about a cut below the other 3-year-olds. But I think he's got enough to be competitive. And if he does get on the front end, he can probably hang on to get a slice. I don't like him really as a win candidate. I think he'd have to take a pretty big move forward, and I think that there's others in here who are poised to do that with a little more talent. So I think you'll get a halfway decent price on him. So I would use him in the exotics mainly. Airtime is trained by Robertino Diodoro, who is believed the leading trainer at Oaklawn, or if not, he's one of the top 2 or 3. He's been killing it. At the claiming and allowance level, there's nobody better at Oaklawn this meet. He and Christian Torres, his jockey, it's just been a dynamite combination. And but this is a graded stakes, and this is not where Diodoro shines. You can see this horse has had some success. He does have 3 wins. But his best effort was in the slop, which was very prominent at Oaklawn this meet. And you can see he drew off and won by 10. But his next start, he really didn't build on it terribly much, although he did win. He got a 78 buyer. He did beat Shopper's Revenge, and he had a ground-saving trip up the rail. But I don't know. I just don't really think this one is good enough. And I just can't see enough to get excited about him, particularly since Diodoro trains him and is more of a claiming and allowance trader. So I think this one is pretty much a toss. Angel of Empire, we really liked in the Risen Star, and we were rewarded for our faith. Got a nice 13-1 win. This one, I still like him. I mean, what's not to like? He keeps getting better with every single start. That Risen Star, he looked like he was full of run at the conclusion of the race. Granted, he did get the trip, and I think that helped. But the fact of the matter is, I think this one loves 2 turns, and I think he's only getting better. His class level keeps going up every single race. His buyers as well, and I think he's going to take another move forward. There's no reason to believe otherwise. And the added advantage is he's got Flavian Pratt on him, who's just been killing it at Oaklawn. Granted, in a small sample size, but he's 8 for 11 in the money, and 5 out of 11, 45%. So Cox has got another French jockey. He's winning with it 57%. So I think all systems are go for this one. And I think he's a liberal use throughout your tickets and a win candidate as well. Only sad part is we're definitely not going to get the same price we got in the Risen Star. Rocket Can, it has, when I look back over his race record, he's sending me mixed signals. Now, he has been the poster child for Derby progression all through the season. I mean, he came out, won the Holy Bull, and it was a slow fractions he closed into, but he did get the win. And the Fountain of Youth, he ran a better race and improved again. But here's the thing, if you go back and look at both races, in the Holy Bull, he was able to sit off a slow pace and close into it, and he looked pretty sharp in the stretch, like he had plenty of run left. And he needed it to hold off Shadow Dragon. But he looked like a really fresh horse that would definitely move forward his next race. However, in the Fountain of Youth, at the same distance, they put him up closer to the lead this time. And in the stretch, he wasn't going to beat Forte, and nobody was. But if you look at his body language, he looked tired. And I just wonder if maybe he's hit the ceiling for now. You're adding distance, and if that's the case, then I'm not so sure that he's going to fire another good race. I am going to be using Rocket Can very defensively. He could still get in the exotics, but I don't think he's a win candidate, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes off the board. So, and you're going to get a short price, so I'd like to find value elsewhere. So I'd be very advised if I did use Rocket Can for those reasons. Reincarnate is kind of the reverse to me. He ran a very deceptively, I think, pretty good race in the Rebel. Now, he didn't really have any issues out of the gate. He broke fine. It was more Johnny V. I think he anticipated a hot pace, which there was, and he wanted to keep him off of it and save a run for late. And Reincarnate delivered. He did have a run in the stretch. He got squeezed in the stretch when Red Route 1 came flying through, and it interrupted his momentum. And I think had it not, we would have been talking about him as the Rebel winner instead of Confidence Game, because he had plenty of horse. And he was full of run. So he got stopped very briefly, but he did keep on, and you always want to see that. He didn't let it get to him, and he kept running, and he closed well for third. So I think this one, aside from showing some versatility of being able to run off the pace as well as on it, I think I saw some grit there that I really like. The only question I have is what they're going to do with him in this race, whether they're going to get him up near the lead or lay him back a little bit. I would tend to think being up near the lead would be a better strategy, but what do I know? I'll leave that to Johnny V. He's in the Hall of Fame and I'm not. But I like this horse, and I definitely think he's a win candidate here, and I'm going to be using him liberally on my tickets. King Russell is trained by Ron Moquette, who's a really good conditioner of maidens, and he's got his A-rider, Rafael Bejarano, on him. Beginning of the Oaklawn meet, they were winning everything in sight, but they have really cooled off, and they've been getting the percentages together have been progressively decreasing, and now they're only winning at about 10%. So I think Ron Moquette front-loaded his stable for this meet, and now he's cooled off considerably. Now, this King Russell we've seen a couple of times. He's run against some pretty good 3-year-olds, including Sun Thunder, Talladega, Sea of Normandy. But the thing is, he is improving, but he comes from way back. He's been deep closing, and in this race, I really don't think that's what you want to be doing. I think he could potentially jump forward a little bit, but most of his running has been done on wet tracks. It seems to be his best. So maybe you upgrade him a little bit for underneath if it rains. But other than that, I think, maybe he gets into the superfecta, but I don't really like his chances terribly much, and I'd have to have really big odds if I was going to use him. Excuse me. Red Route 1, well, we know what the issue with him is, don't we? I mean, he's just way too far back, and he has too much to do late. But there's some good news. I think they're finally addressing it. First of all, they went and got Tyler Gaffalione. Now, the last time he was Red Route 1's jockey was in the Kentucky Jockey Club, and but for some serious traffic issues, I think he would have won that race. And he was the best horse that day, without a doubt. He was up near the pace, and it didn't appear to be really an issue for him. So I don't see this as being a tactic change here. I don't think it's going to be a big deal for this horse. Second thing is they're putting blinkers on him, which should focus him a little better on the task and keep him more into the game early on, and I think that's going to really help. His buyers have been going up since his 3-year-old season started, and he's been progressing class level wise. There's no reason to believe he won't jump forward again. The only thing I will say is Asmussen's percentage with 3-year-olds first time blinkers is like 9%, so it's not the greatest, but this is a good horse, and I don't think we can take too much stock in that. I think it's just a good tactical move, and I think Red Route 1 is definitely a win candidate here, and I'll be using him liberally. Problem is, you're going to get a short price, but I think you got to win, right? So you use him. Colomillo, I would probably toss right off the bat if he wasn't trained by Keith DeSormo. As we know, Keith DeSormo loves to pull surprises on big stakes days, witnessed by Confidence Game winning the Rebel. James Graham is his A-rider, and when DeSormo takes a horse turf to dirt, they win at 40% and 60% in the money. So I think that's a really good sign. Interesting thing, if you go back and watch this horse's last race, yes, it was on turf, and it wasn't Santa Anita, and it was an optional claimer, but I'll tell you, he put on a move right before the top of the stretch, and he looked like he was going to win the race. And coming down the stretch, I noticed he just turned his head a little bit to the right, and I think he was distracted and looking in the stands. Now, he did refocus, and once he did, he got up for a good third, and he probably could have got second, and maybe even would have won the race if he had stayed more focused. But his sire is Constitution, and that's a son of Tapit. So maybe those eccentricities have transferred forward from father to son. I don't know. But it looks like he's a little immature. So if DeSormo catches him where he's kind of grown up a little bit and got his act together, moving on to dirt, this might be an interesting price play. He's not going to win this race. Don't get me wrong. He'd have to take a quantum leap to be competitive and to be prominent. But I think it wouldn't be out of the question for this one to be on the bottom of the try of the Super, and I think you're going to get some really nice value. So why not give him a look just for that purpose? So let's take a look at our top 5 and see how it shakes out. Our top 5 for the Arkansas Derby are number 1, Red Route 1. The addition of blinkers and Tyler Gaffalione will have this one more forwardly placed, I think. And I think he's a definite win candidate based upon his prior reference when he's been up near the lead. And I don't think it's going to be an issue for him, and he's a win candidate. Number 2 is Reincarnate. The versatility of his running style and that last race being better than we perhaps thought it was, I think definitely will put this one in a position to be a factor and could possibly win it under the right circumstances. I expect him to be up near the lead, and that should be a good place with the lack of early speed in this race. Number 3 is Angel of Empire. He continues to move forward and progress. I think that this distance certainly meets him with between the eyes as it did in the Risen Star, and I think he's a factor, and he's also a strong win candidate. Number 4 is Two Eagles River. I think he'll be up near the lead, if not on it, and I think that'll be a good place to be with the lack of early speed. He's been competitive against some of the other 3-year-olds, and I see no reason why he wouldn't be here. Just not sure that a win is possible with this one. Number 5 is Rocket Ken. As noted, I'm using him very advisedly because it's kind of hard to find value elsewhere that would be certain to factor. I would just say, go with your gut, and if you find somebody else to use aside from him at a better price, I would probably go for it. But it's very conceivable that this one could be in the money based upon his prior form, and there isn't much to challenge him, so he could still factor and be in the exotics, but he's not a win candidate. So that's our look at the Arkansas Derby. I think it's a good competitive field, and I'm expecting a really nice race. We don't have quite as strong a field as we had in the Rebel with the defections, but nonetheless, I think there's enough here to make for a really fun race to watch. If you like what you see here, please like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it, and we hope our analysis, of course, helps you in your wagering strategy. I wish you the best of luck this weekend. It should be a fun one, and I'll talk to you soon.